invest in people in the long term, there has to be a mutual understanding.
Hustle hard, hustle hard. Close mouths don't get fed. Thinking strategically, but acting like a gorilla is the kind of marketing that's small. When it innovates very little, it's highly risk averse, and it indicates
So business model. You ready to talk about that? What's a business model? The logic of the way in which the business creates value for the customers. That's what it is. And I just to reinforce what I would consider to be the best definition is this is the one that I just looked up that makes the most sense to me. It's the plan that it doesn't have to be a plan. It just how an organization creates, delivers, and captures values to generate profit. So it's a loaded, creates, delivers, all this kind of stuff. It's a decent amount of information, but thankfully we have a tool that can help us walk through this model. And the tool is a great tool, and it doesn't need to be overly complicated. And okay, so bear with me as I just try to briefly explain the entirety of the model. So we're having to visually show somehow the way in which our organization answers all of these different 9 sections, and all of these sections don't live in a vacuum. They are connected to one another. They have to strategically make sense. And how I look at the business model is I look at the business model to separate it as the front end and the back end of the business. And I just created a little line here that can kind of show you what I would consider to be the front end versus the back end of the business. So this is the front end. And when I mean front end, it's customer facing. It is what the customer sees. It's what the customer experiences. It's how the customer receives the value that you're delivering. Who the customer is, how you get, keep, and grow customers, how you deliver your services. Is it online? Is it in a store? Is it face to face? How do you act? What's the medium in which you exchange these services? What are you actually delivering to customers? What is the value that you're delivering to these customers? And we'll walk through all this in more detail. That's the value delivering to whom. How you're delivering the value is here. And then, of course, how you're getting, keeping, and growing your customers. And then what are you selling right here? What are you selling? Like your revenue streams. So if you can think about it simply as that, and I will try to make it a little bit more clear for you in these explanations of each one of these categories. But if this is the separation, if this is the front end of the business model, then what would this part be back here? You could say back end. We're all adults here. This is the back end of the business model. Fair? Rear of the business model. I mean, it's funny, but it's appropriate in a sense because customers don't want to see your back end. Customers don't necessarily care what's going on back there. they don't. It doesn't matter to them. They don't care who your key partners are. They don't care what you do on a day-to-day basis. Like try to start telling a customer how busy you are today and all of the things you needed to do in order to make sure that they got their value. They don't care. They don't necessarily care about your resources. They don't really care if you have 5 employees or 100,000 employees. They just want what they want when they want it. And they want it in a certain way, in a certain location for a certain price. And how you procure those resources in order to get it doesn't matter to them. They certainly don't care about your cost structure. I mean, it matters to them as much as the price that they're going to get is good. So you want to keep your costs down, but they don't necessarily care what you pay for it. You know, a restaurant that delivers me a filet mignon and some rice and some beautiful Brussels sprouts, if the waiter came to my table and said, hey, listen, we kind of overspent on this steak, and I just want to let you know, it cost us about $50 to buy this meal for you and to cook it and all this kind of stuff. And we're only charging you 45. So I'm just letting you know, like, we're really strapped here. That never happens. It never happens, and it never should happen. And it doesn't matter to the customer. I mean, I think that's probably guilty to the customer. The customer's like, wait, man, I'm not sure if I should eat this steak. But at the end of the day, customers don't care about that stuff. So what happens in the back end of the business model, the backstage, is up to you. What happens back here is how you deliver the services that are happening up here. So that's really a holistic understanding of the functionality of a business model. And I'm going to explain each section in a second, but I'm curious, do you guys have any questions with that? Maybe I should put the visual back up. So yeah, it's the operational component. If you think about the back office, if you go to Publix, and Publix on stage at Publix is the customer relationships. They care about your experience when you come in. They want to keep you shopping. They have a wonderful music soundtrack playing. They're friendly towards you. They get you in the store because it's a nice piece of real estate and a nice area, and they have plenty of parking. So they get you in the store and they keep you in the store with, again, the music and the kindness and all that kind of stuff. And they get you to they grow their customer base because when you go home and you experience this beautiful food with your family, you cook it for your friends and they say, where did you get this? You say, I got it from Publix. And they say, wow, I love Publix. And the next day they're shopping at Publix. This is the front end. And of course, who is Publix targeting? They might be targeting, people with over probably $80,000 to $200,000 in income because it's a fairly household income because it's a fairly expensive place to shop, but likely people who have occasions or people who want to one-stop shop or people who are maybe going to a party and they want to impress their friends a little bit more than going to Walmart, they go to Publix. Who knows? So they drill down on what their customer looks like, what their customer sounds like, the things that their customer does on a regular basis. They know who their customer is. They know how to get them into the store. They know how to keep them in the store, and they know how to grow their customer base. So what I just articulated there was this situation here was the customer, and let's write this down so you see it, is I just said 80K to 200K household income. It's a little too big. Okay, and then what else did I say? I said um, loves food, loves quality cookies because they have a pretty good bakery, and they enjoy, let's say they enjoy shopping, and they might live in the suburbs. I mean, I don't know how many Publix are in a city. I mean, they actually do, but suburban. I'm just guessing at this. So, and maybe you say mostly moms maybe, and old grandpas. Grandpas. The point is not accuracy here because that's going to be up to you. But the point is you can maybe picture this. A household with between 80 and 200K of family income. They love quality. They enjoy shopping. They live in the suburbs, and their moms and old grandpas. So that is how you would define, and just these bullet points. And these are really guesses because you don't really know who this customer is, but that's how you define your customer in somewhat layman's terms. It's not just demographics. It's also psychographics, emotional concepts, and how do they enjoy their time. Okay, awesome. So the next question should be, what is Publix delivering? What would you consider to be the value proposition of Publix? So I everything you said, I put where shopping is a pleasure, high quality fresh products, convenience and accessibility, value with loyalty, community focus. So it says in essence, Publix pairing competitive grocery pricing with an elevated, friendly, and trustworthy in-store experience. So it's not a great value proposition statement, but it's something. So let's just go, let's put this here just for the sake of the exercise. I wish I could make that text smaller, but I can't, so I apologize. Okay, so this is what it says. Publix's value proposition is delivering a clean and friendly shopping experience. I like this better. Clean and friendly shopping experience with high quality fresh products, competitive pricing, and trusted customer service. So that at least it has an action word like delivering. So one of the reasons I'm taking the time to do this, and I think it's really important, is because as you can see, this is a bit more concrete, it's a bit more digestible, and it actually has this delivering. What is Publix doing? Well, it's delivering clean, friendly shopping experience. That is the value it's delivering to the people who have between 80 and 200K in a household. They love quality, enjoy shopping, suburban. So if you can picture this group, and I feel like it works out decently, it should be that this group wants this. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when I mentioned to Francisco that it's fascinating that you're designing your product around what the customer wants. You're starting with a customer and then you're designing your value. That should be how the businesses do it. Who is our customer and how can we create value for them is a good question to ask. So if you know who your customer is, and this posits that you intimately know who your customer is, that's really, really important. In order to deliver value to them, you're going to have to know what they value. And it would make sense that our customer that we're looking at here probably values clean and friendly shopping experience with high quality, fresh. I mean, we even have quality loves quality. And the arrow just happens to be pointing at it. Products, competitive pricing, it's debatable, and trusted customer service. So the value proposition and the customer segment is intimately locked. So here's the fun part. How do they deliver this value? And what means are they delivering the value? When you think of Publix, where do you receive this value? Tangibly. I'll ask it again. How does Publix deliver this value? And what means is this value delivered? So I'm persistent on the answer to this question because it tells me whether or not you even know what a channel is. And it is so vitally important you understand what a channel is when you deliver value through a channel. So you were the closest, Francisco, in your description, but you didn't say it. The store, right? And a store would be considered a brick and mortar supermarket. This is so vitally important to understand is that Publix is delivering value mostly through their brick and mortar real estate. That it's a physical brick and mortar store. That's the channel in which they're delivering this value. I can't experience the value proposition of Publix sitting here in my house. I can't experience it as I'm driving in my car via my cell phone. So the value that they define here for the customer that we want is delivered through the brick and mortar store. Does that make sense? Because the essence of technology, they likely have an online experience as well. So, but it also says here Publix pharmacy. So it's not just the supermarket. The pharmacy seems to be another channel. Pharmacy. Okay. And then another channel would be Publix.com or the Publix app. So they also have a channel, which would be the Publix.com. So they have three primary channels in which this value is being delivered. I want to make sure everybody gets that. The channel is not the TV station or the radio station or Instagram when it comes to Publix. Yes, Instagram might be a means of developing customer relationships, which we'll talk about next, but it's not where they deliver that. So that's what a channel is. It's a brick and mortar supermarket, pharmacy, and Publix.com would be essentially the three channels that Publix uses to deliver their value to their customer segment. So this front end of the business model should start to be shaping up to you. Okay, what does Publix sell? So grocery sales. I mean, we have here an answer to this question in just the channels alone, right? Drugs, grocery sales, drugs, and then what else? Considering it's also in the channels as like food and drink, non-alcoholic, and then you could actually group in alcohol as a separate revenue stream. And the revenue stream likely will have a business strategy to it. So if it's a separate revenue stream, you're probably going to look at it a little bit differently. So Publix is thinking about their core grocery business. They're dealing with certain decisions and vendors and thoughts and decisions that need to be made for their core grocery sales. That's one thing. Then they have to side note that and think now, okay, about our alcohol sales. And then they have to think about their drug sales. And then they have to think about their delivery services. And usually the customer will experience these revenue streams similarly, but they're really going for different reasons. Like not everybody, and who knows, you could very well get alcohol, groceries, drugs, and one things that are delivered via Publix. So the point is, and the essence of this question alone is what is the store or the business selling in order for it to make money? Well, okay, let me use another example because Publix is already being played out. So a gas station. Every single one of you in this class at this level should go to any business ever and be able to count their revenue streams within 30 seconds of being in this business, at this business. So what does a gas station sell? I would consider the trucks that need diesel to be sort of a different revenue stream, debatable, than the gasoline customers. And then you have the customers that are coming inside and looking for, and you might even group those things as like made to order, meaning you can go into Wawa and made to order sandwich or I come hoagies or coffee, or you could buy something that's like prepackaged. So you could categorize your food into made to order versus prepackaged. I think that might be important because if you're a gas station and you have made to order, that's like a big deal. You got to staff it and you got to have people there that know how to make sandwiches and stuff like that versus you just stock a bunch of stuff on the shelves and people pick out what they want to pick out. So possibly if you wanted to break the revenue drivers into gasoline, diesel, made to order, and general food and drink, it'd probably be about 4 revenue streams there. And of course, the other things like lottery sales and cigarettes, you could categorize them separately. And so then you think to yourself, okay, where are they making the most money in this business? That's where they might be driving the most revenue, but where do you think their most margin is? High likelihood that you'll notice that Racetrack is renovated not too long ago to make this pizza and these hamburgers and stuff. And Wawa is the same way because a lot of their profit comes from the food. The gas is just the lure to get people to come in and buy the food. The gas is they're super expensive. They have to be the same price as the people across the street, $2.99, $2.99. Well, why am I going to go to Wawa as opposed to Racetrack? Because Wawa's got great coffee, and they do made to order frappuccinos or whatever your deal is. And so that's why they go to Wawa. And what do they pay for a frappuccino? Way too much. Where at Racetrack, you get like a $2 coffee and you're good to go. But people go into Wawa not because of the gas, because of they might go there because of meaning the gas might be a penny cheaper, but they're not making any money on the gas. They're making money with the food. And I think we talked about that in some other classes as well. So this is why the logic of the profit model and revenue streams has to tie into the other thing. Okay, any questions about revenue streams? Customer relationships. So you're probably going to have a customer segment. This is going to be a little bit more confusing. You're likely going to have 2 different customers, like a user and a buyer. I don't know. Do you guys have names for these 2 different things? Okay, so it's probably good to define that. So the users of service. So you call those the clients, which is fine now that we understand. And then the merchants would be the one's advertising, right, on your, or one's advertising on your space. So I just typed this here because whatever. And so those are your clients. And so both of those are going to have to be defined really, really, really well in your customer segment. Like you're going to have some key phrases for each one of those because both of those are people you're going to try to build relationships with. And you're going to have to build your business model. You might even want to build 2 separate business models, one for your clients and one for your merchants. But then the question remains, and the goal of this section before we end is to ask, okay, so how are we going to, and I have to use, okay, this is good. This is for I think a technology product of sorts, but you get the idea. The concept here in customer relationships is just simply asking these 2 questions. How do we get the customers? Think about Publix. How do they get them? I don't know, you got to build a store, you have to advertise, you have to welcome people in the store. And then how do you keep them? Well, what you're doing is you're trying to continue to have them coming back. And then how do you grow them? So Duolingo, again, one of my favorite companies to use. They get me because they have a podcast, they have a great app, they have a cool name, Duolingo. It's easy to download. It's got some credibility to it. So they acquire me. Duolingo is now an application on my phone. I was free service Duolingo for many years until I started teaching full time at Miami Dade College. I said to myself, I have to get serious about learning Spanish. And so they've now activated me. They've gotten me, they've acquired me because now I have their app, but I'm free. Their activation is now because they use the freemium model. Now they activated me because I'm now in a posture, position in my life where I want to pay for their services. Okay, cool. Now the question is, how do they keep me? Does anybody use Duolingo? Do they know how they keep their customers coming back? They gamify it. They build these streaks. Their phone that kind of pop up and say, "Hey," like the little birdie changes its face from happy face to sad face. Like, come back and play with me, kind of thing. And so they keep me coming back because I have the streak. I don't want to lose the streak. And then how do they grow? They incentivize me by giving me more points and being able to give me more streak freezes to friend people and to try to do a streak with a friend. So they're essentially asking me to do my Duolingo with other people. And then when I reach a goal, say I have a 30-day streak goal, they ask me to share my goal, to tell my friends and family about my goal, and to put it on social media and to brag about my Duolingo. And of course, when I share it, they get exposure and free marketing and all this kind of stuff. And then in addition to that, this will be the last thing I say because I know we're running out of time and I got a whole nother class to teach. The referrals is they try to get you to build this family plan. Like they want you to get your family involved. They want your wife and your kids and stuff like that to use Duolingo, but they got to have their own separate accounts and you can do a family plan. So get, keep, grow. That is this section of the business model. Once you know your customer segment, once you know the value, this is a mess here. Once you have your customer segment, you know the value of your customer segment that for your customer segment, you know where you're delivering it, and you know what you're selling. 1, 2, 3. Then this is saying, okay, how do we get them? How do we keep them? And how do we grow them? That is the front end, folks, of the business model. Imperative for all of you to vehemently understand each one of these different categories in order for you to go any further in making sure this business works. You could back into this. Let's say you stumble through this and you have no idea what you're doing, and all of a sudden you start your business. Eventually, you're going to figure these questions out, right? Because eventually you're going to know the answers to these. I would much prefer you to know them going into the business or going into the project as opposed to falling into it haphazardly. So this is your charge, right? This is your, you got to make sure you get the SAM, the TAM, that stuff down. And you got to make sure that we start understanding the aspects of the front end of the business model. And then again, when we get back together, we'll talk about the back end. It's inspirational when you reflect on some of these leaders that one might consider to be heroes and think about their lives